Hi everybody, welcome to our block of the month with Anna Marie and her welcome home. This is actually from block one. You're not doing anything with this fabric yet, but cutting it. So I just wanted to show you how we cut it. I watched Anna Marie in her first video and she talked a little bit about cutting it, so I wanted to show you how I did. We got this piece of fabric just this length and she wants you to cut out the scallops. There's two colors, this color and a blue. I'm going to do this color in a raw edge, and Cindy's going to show you how to cut it with a finished edge. So there's two ways to applique. So this is the raw edge. So on the back of my fabric, I have ironed on Steam-A-Seam 2, so that we're going to iron this onto the quilt when it's time to do that. So she said to start, and I cut this at the beginning of a scallop. If you can see this right here, so we're going to cut we're going to cut 3 rows of a finished scallop, the whole width that she gives you. So I cut the first one and I wanted to show you, this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And then I'm going to show you how I cut it. I have this one almost done, and all I did was, since I have the Steam-A-Seam on the back, I'm not worried about fraying or anything. She gives a template, but she also says, more important than the template is to just go around the curves. So I'm just taking my Kai scissors, which are really sharp, and I'm just cutting around the scallop, just kind of keeping it real close to the top of the scallop. I need to turn this around now. Okay. So we just cut around, and it's the whole length of this fabric. It's actually not this difficult. And when we get to the end, then you have to make sure that it's 4.5 inches wide. So I've cut the whole top, as you can see. All the scallops are cut. And now you want to make sure that this is 4.5 inches wide. So I take my ruler, and actually I'm going to turn it around because I'm going to cut with my right hand. And so I have a 1/2 inch right here. So when I turn it around, this will be 4.5 inches. And you want the 4.5, which is right here, on the top of each scallop. And you can see that's pretty even. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And so then all I have to do, cut it at the 4.5. And then I just move it up. Give it a little trim right here. Make this 4.5 right at the top of the scallops right here where I've cut them. Okay, and then finish the width of the fabric. And that is how easy it is to cut up the scallops. Now, after you're done, sometimes I take my K. Buckley scissors, which are micro serrated, and I'll just trim around if I think it needs it, but which I did with this one. So these scallops look a little bit more crisp, right on the line. So you can go back and trim them a little more, but that's how I cut my 4.5 inch scallops with the Steam-A-Seam on the back. And we're just going to save those for the end of the, I think month 4 we're going to be ironing them on. But that's how I cut with the Steam-A-Seam raw edge applique. And those are your scallops. Thank you very much. And now Cindy will show you how to do the turned edge. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Bridget. I am here to show you another way to use, another way to finish off this beautiful quilt, the Welcome Home. Did you see that over there? The Welcome Home, we're going to be doing this little design here today, but we're going to do it in an applique technique. So we're going to build these little curves that are going to go around the center part of the quilt. Okay, So what I would like to show you is the applique system and what all you would need in order to do the applique technique. So first we have the interfacing, which is the fusible interfacing. And it looks like this. So on one side, it's a fiber, And on the other side, you can see the shininess of it. It is the fusible part. So that's what's in this box little here. Then you have the pencils that I used when I was drawing. You always draw, like I did here, if you can see that, Lori, on the back side where the fusible is. So you're going to draw around that. I set down a template, this is made out of freezer paper, on top of my fabric, which is here. I'm trying to capture this curve going around the design. And so I'm laying the template on top of there just to get an idea. I'm laying the freezer paper on top so I can get an idea. Although, I think you probably could even just lay the fusible interfacing down and skip that step, because we wanted to make one long run of that design on the fusible interfacing. So you'll need the fusible interfacing, some pencils that are the applique pencils. Then we have the tools, and the tools are, I consider them my fork and knife. So the fork, I call it the fork because it has like little, it's got a little curve with two ends on it, like a fork, two little rungs on it. That is what holds everything in place. So when I'm doing my applique, you can see I'm holding it in place tightly. The knife part of it has this nice little flat, smooth edge, and it's curved on the other side. Both of them have a little pointed edge at the end, and the pointed edge is for when you're doing, getting into the real tight parts here. So we'll show you both of that. She also has a, we use the applique glue, which I find it really, really nice to use, and it holds well. The one thing that I have to say about that, it depends on what part of the country that you live in. So let's say you're living in Florida like we are here. When you use it, because there's so much moisture in the air, it takes a little bit longer for it to adhere, so be patient. But if you're living in a dry state like Arizona, then you're going to have to work quickly because it's going to dry faster for you. She also has these handy dandy little tweezers that can pick up literally, let me just show you here. I'm going to pick up a couple things so you can see how wonderful it works. So if you're picking up just a little piece of fabric and you need to get in there and get it really easily, it clamps onto it, so it adheres to it really nicely when you pinch it together. You can pick up something that's a little bit, I know that's a silly little demo, but I tell you, the tweezers, once you have them, you're never going to use anything else. If you're trying to get a piece of thread out of your sewing machine that got stuck there, you can easily get into it. Okay, so that's the tweezers. She does have these wonderful scissors, and the reason that I like to use her scissors is because they are a micro serrated edge. So it's little bitty teeth that are in there. So when you're cutting with it, you're getting, you're able to go right next to where you want to cut your fabric. So let's say I want to do an 1/8 of an inch cut. It grabs, because of those little teeth, it grabs the fabric. So it just gives you a much better edge when you're cutting, and it's not slipping on you. So the micro serrated edges, or just a serrated edge, period, works wonderful. And lastly, in her product line, she has this, and this is how we do the finish, or that's how I do the finish. We have monofilament thread. And I had some ladies in a class the other day that we were doing a project, and we used this on the finish to attach our applique to the background, and you didn't even see it, and no one had a problem with it in their sewing machines, because you always hear stories about monofilament thread, how it tangles up or whatever. This one did not. They were very happy with the finish. So what we're doing is we're creating that edge to go around. What I've done is made a template, because I was drawing it on my back side of the fusible interfacing. So freezer paper template first, although I think you can lay this right down on any design and then just draw around it with the pencil. And we're just trying to draw around, we want to capture this curve. So I laid it almost right at the top of it, and then I'm going to cut a 1/4 inch, which is what we've done here. So we've cut our 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can see there's the edge of the interfacing, and here's the little 1/4 inch seam allowance. And actually, the seam allowance can be anywhere from a 1/4 inch to an 1/8 of an inch. And when you're working with curves, sometimes that 1/8 of an inch really is better. So what I'm going to do is show you how to use the fork and knife method, or the applique technique. So I have her glue, and it's a glue little pen there. We're going to go along the edges of the fabric, and I'm going to get in close there where my curve is, but I am going to have to do a little trimming on that. And I put some on the interfacing as well, so I'm doing it on both. The one thing I didn't tell you about was whenever I'm working with glue, whether I'm fusing or doing an applique like this, I like to use the Teflon pressing sheets, which we have 2 different sizes here in the store. So fork, have that down. I have my flat edge of my knife, and you're just rolling your wrist basically. So I'm starting with the knife facing upward, and then I'm just taking and going right along that edge, and then I'm turning it over and then just pressing it down. The beauty of this interfacing that I really, really like is the fact that when you hit that edge, you know when to stop pulling or pushing, or like I'm just kind of, let me show you again. So we curved it over, I just folded it over, and now I'm just going in and smoothing everything out. And I want you to see how nice and beautiful that edge is. So see, we've turned it over. And now we have this beautiful edge, which is really very professional looking when you're doing your finish. So I'll just show you one more time. The fork is holding it down, and the knife is just rolling it over. Hold it down for a second. Again, it's moist in Florida, so it might take a little extra time to go down. So if something pops up, don't panic. Just go back and press it down again. We're doing it there. So you can see how nice and neat. Once you do this technique, I've had students say, I love applique. I didn't know if I liked applique before, but now they do. So I think it's a really cool technique. They're great tools to have in your toolbox, and you're going to start having a really very professional look to your finish there. And then we're going to do our zigzag stitching. Maybe we'll show that one day. So we'll show how to do that finish when you're adding it to your fabric, to your background. Okay? I think that's all I have to say today. We'll see you again.